Yeah,
Yeah.
what'd you think about the Stefon Diggs trade? Give us your opening thoughts.
Wow. That is a difference-making move. There's no question about it. I don't think Stefon Diggs has played on the national platform that makes him as understood league-wide as to just what kind of talent he is. I'm not overstating this, guys. The Bills got themselves a top 5 receiver in the entire league.
I said that.
That's
when
how
we
good
came on the air,
Stefon
yeah.
Diggs is.
Yeah. By the way, Chris, who comes to Buffalo to get on a national platform? What are you talking about?
Well, I'm just saying that league-wide, who do you see every week on the nationally, the games that cover the majority of the country? Minnesota's not one of those teams.
Okay.
And so I think in terms of household names and getting a true appreciation for the kind of player that Stefon Diggs is not something that's happened over the course of the last couple of years.
I see.
And so because of that, I don't think people, even though people know Stefon Diggs is a very good receiver, I don't think they know how good. This guy is elite.
Yeah.
Elite. He is a top 5 receiver in the entire league, and his best football is still in front of him.
Yeah.
He's 26 years old.
Amazing.
He's under
26.
contract at an affordable price for the next 4 years, although that's obviously subject to change if he and his agent want to talk about, a new contract maybe as soon as next offseason. That's up to them. But, guys, the reason this makes so much sense for the Bills is this. What have we heard both Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott say in this offseason? Both of them have said it multiple times. They need to score more points on offense, okay? So Diggs has scored 23 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons. That's 5th most in the league over that span. Do you know who he's tied with? He's tied with players like Travis Kelce and Michael Thomas in New Orleans, just to give people a greater perspective on the type of talent that Stefon Diggs is. He is elite, and he will help put points on the board for this offense. This guy might be the best route runner that the Bills as a franchise have ever seen since Andre Reed.
Okay. Wait, so I'm going to let Murph give you our Twitter poll today, and I want you to answer honestly, Brownie, because it sounds like you're option A.
Stefon Diggs with the Bills, and Tom Brady leaves the Patriots. How are you feeling today as a Bills fan? Option 1. I'm freaking out. The Bills are on top in the AFC East. Is that where you're at, Chris? I know you're not. You're more judicial than that, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm not going to be making predictions or anything like that. There's a lot of free agency to cover. There's a lot of draft to cover in the course of the offseason. But I would say after the Diggs trade happened, I was kind of like Ric Flair. How about that?
Yeah, that's.
I had the same reaction.
Yeah.
I saw it on my phone last night, and I texted these two, our producer Jay Harris and Steve, and I said the same 3-letter word you did, Chris. Wow.
Well,
I had to sleep on it. I had to think about it. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal, but look, none of us. It's great, and I think the Bills are better today than they were yesterday. And I got a lot of trust in Sean McDermott and his ability to lead this group. But the last thing you want to do is turn into the 2019 Cleveland Browns, where you got all these good players and you have things like that all of a sudden, and then you go into a home wrecker of a schedule, and you're disappointing. You don't want it to turn into that, and it's too early to tell. But certainly, and I told this to Murph, and I'll say it again, certainly, no matter what happens, the Bills are a better offensive football team today than they were yesterday.
Sure.
Right, and you're only incorporating one major piece into this offense, not the wholesale changes we saw last offseason. So there's less to fit together to make it work, and that was not the case in Cleveland last year. They assembled all these different pieces, and they couldn't blend them together. The Bills did a better job of blending on offense last year than the Browns did, and they had far less talent to do that with.
Yep.
Granted, they did have a favorable schedule. Cleveland had a tougher schedule last year, admittedly, and the Bills are facing that this season. I don't think there's any question about it. But you cannot deny that Diggs is one of the best route runners the Bills' offense has seen, certainly in the last decade. He's a consistent separator. He is a big play threat. I'm going to give you some next-gen stats, guys, and I know you don't want to get too deep in the weeds with this stuff.
No,
but
I love the weeds.
Diggs led the NFL last year in deep receptions. He had the highest catch rate on deep receptions, and we all know how connecting on deep balls was a problem last year for this offense. He also led the NFL in yards per target at 24 yards. His 18 yards per reception last season was not only a single-season career best for him, it was tied for fourth in the NFL last year. Only 5 receivers in the league, guys, had more 20-plus yard receptions than the 20 that Diggs had last season, and 5 of those went for touchdowns, which was tied for the second most in the league. The guy is a point producer. That was the I'm telling you, I'll be shocked if Brandon Beane says, whenever he's available for comment, that was not the number one factor in what attracted them to Diggs. The guy puts points on the board, plain and simple.
I'm trying to think. I don't want to dwell on Diggs because we only got a few minutes left with you, Chris, but you said route running. What else are his characteristics, his traits that have made him so productive? You can't argue with the production. You can't argue with the numbers, the next-gen stats you just cited. But what do you think? How does he do that, aside from running good routes? What else does he have?
Well, he's got speed. He ran a 4.46 at the Combine. He's got leaping ability. He's got a 37.5-inch vertical, so even though he's 5'11" or 6 foot, he could still out-jump people. And the guy's a tough son of a gun. It's a guy that will battle. He's cut from the cloth that I think Sean McDermott looks for in players. He's a guy that plays angry, and you don't always get that at the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
And I think he does that. And, I think people might have some level of concern with some of the issues that were at play in Minnesota, and I get that. But I think the rub there was Minnesota could never decide who their number one wide receiver was, whether it was him or Adam Thielen. And I think that was somewhat of an issue there.
I think Minnesota wanted to run the ball last year. I don't think they wanted to throw it.
Well, yeah, and there's that element as well. But I don't think there was ever a clear delineation in the pecking order in Minnesota. And, you would say, well, that shouldn't be an issue, and it can't be an issue here where it's a team-first focus. And I get all that. But I'm sorry. Stefon Diggs walks in the door here at Buffalo, and that guy is going to be targeted 8 to 10 times a week. And to me, that's the definition of a number one wide receiver. He is going to be the primary target. When they need a play to be made in the passing game, whether it's red zone, backed up in their own end, they're looking for him primarily. That doesn't mean he's going to get the ball every single time, but a lot of plays are going to be drawn up for that guy.